Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at the idea of universal law.
Right.
And how we can try to better align ourselves with it. And we'll be taking this from a talk by Osho, a spiritual teacher who, gave a lot of talks and focused on meditation as kind of his main thing. And specifically, we'll be looking at discourse number 21 from the New Alchemy.
Yeah, Osho had this really interesting way of talking about, kind of complex spiritual ideas, but in a way that was very down to earth, very relatable. And I in this talk, he does a really good job of kind of getting to the core of, how we live and kind of questioning, the structures that we've built and encouraging us to reconnect with like a more natural, universal harmony.
And I guess to kind of kick things off with this, one of the main points that he brings up is this idea that humanity has created all these, artificial laws in societies, and that's actually taken us away from the natural order of the universe. And he uses this really great analogy of being tuned to the cosmos. What exactly does that mean?
So if you think of the universe as this like perfectly orchestrated symphony.
Okay.
And each of us is like an instrument in it. But instead of, playing in harmony with this orchestra, we're all kind of trying to follow our own sheet music that's completely out of sync with, the grand composition that's happening.
Right.
And those societal rules that we kind of blindly follow, that's our, our out of tune sheet music. We're so caught up in societal expectations that we lose sight of that universal law, the natural rhythm that kind of governs everything.
And he also goes on to say that a lot of these societal laws are often very contradictory and artificial, whereas the universal law is absolute and singular. And he even compares society to a necessary fiction, which I thought was so interesting. Why would he call it necessary in a fiction?
I think it's necessary because it gives us some kind of framework for how to coexist with each other. We need some structure and rules to be able to, function as a group. But it's a fiction in the sense that it's ultimately a human construct. Yeah. It's a set of agreements that we've made, and it's not like some inherent truth of the universe.
Yeah. It really makes you think about, how much of what we consider to be reality is really just, kind of a shared illusion. And it's so easy to get caught up in it all.
Absolutely. And Osho uses some pretty striking examples to illustrate this. He talks about how, laws can contradict each other, in different societies across different cultures. And even points out that, someone like Jesus who preached, love and compassion, might actually be, rejected by today's establishments.
Right. He gives that great anecdote about the Hindu politician who asked the Pope what he would do with a man who lives among criminals, speaks against religion, challenges societal norms. And the Pope says he would condemn this man. And the politician says, well, the man I'm describing is Jesus.
It's such a powerful way to show how our societal constructs can blind us to universal truths. Mm-hmm. Even the institutions that claim to uphold those truths can fall prey to their own limitations.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It's something to think about.
Yeah, it's almost like we get so tangled up in, like the day-to-day that we forget there's this whole other dimension out there.
Yeah.
And Osho actually calls this shift moving from the social to the universal. But how do we actually do that?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
And I don't think it's necessarily about abandoning society altogether, but more about changing our relationship to it.
Right.
And Osho suggests that we should act, but don't get involved. Remain aloof and detached.
I mean, that sounds pretty tricky. Can you break that down a little bit? Like, what does that even look like in practice?
Well, think of it like being an actor on a stage.
Yeah.
You play your part, you fill your roles, but you don't forget that it's just a role. You don't let it completely consume you.
So it's about participating without being totally consumed by it. So like I can be a good employee and I can be a good friend, but I don't let those roles define my whole existence.
Exactly. And that detachment, that ability to kind of step back is what allows us to tap into that universal law. It frees us from the limitations of our, conditioned minds, and it opens us up to a higher awareness.
And then he goes on to suggest something that seems a little bit counterintuitive, which is becoming childlike.
Uh-huh.
How does that fit into all of this?
I know it might seem strange, but, think about it. Children haven't been, completely molded by societal conditioning yet.
Right.
They're closer to a natural state of being. They're more in tune with their instincts. They're curious. They're spontaneous. They're full of wonder. Things that we tend to lose sight of as we get older.
So by becoming more childlike, are we essentially kind of hitting the reset button on our perception, like shedding all those layers of social programming?
Precisely. And Osho even suggests, spending time in nature, being around animals, trees, rocks.
Yeah.
He believes that these natural elements can help us reconnect with that kind of primal energy of the universe to retune ourselves to that cosmic harmony.
And he specifically mentions his meditation camp as a place where people can experiment with this to kind of tap back into that childlike state. But is this something that we can actually apply in our own lives, outside of like a retreat setting?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's about cultivating that sense of childlike wonder in our everyday lives.
Yeah.
Noticing the simple things, appreciating beauty in unexpected places, being fully present in each moment without judgment. It's not easy,
right?
But it's a practice.
Yeah. So we're really talking about rediscovering that joy of simply being present in the world.
Right.
Without all the mental baggage that we usually carry around,
Mm-hmm.
which is a pretty powerful idea when you really think about it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And as you kind of go through your daily life, remember that this is a process, a continuous process of unlearning and relearning, shedding old patterns, embracing new ways of seeing the world.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. We've explored the limitations of, these societal constructs that we often take for granted, the importance of aligning ourselves with that universal law, and, how embracing a childlike perspective can really help us to shift our perception.
Osho really challenges us to question everything, doesn't he?
Yeah.
To really go beyond the surface and find that deeper truth, within ourselves and within the universe.
And he leaves us with this really thought-provoking question at the end. He talks about how the Earth existed in this, more blissful state before humans came along, before, all of our complexities. And he asks if humanity suddenly disappeared, would the universe even miss us?
Makes you think about, our place in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Are we adding to the universal harmony, or are we taking away from it?
It's like he's asking us to really consider, the impact of our existence, not just on the planet, but like on the cosmos itself. Are we living in a way that's in alignment with that natural order, or are we creating chaos and imbalance?
It's a question that I think each of us has to grapple with.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Osho's challenge to us is to live consciously.
Yeah.
To be aware of our actions and their consequences, and to strive to, become instruments of harmony, not discord.
To find that balance between our individual needs and the well-being of the whole.
Right.
To remember that we're part of something so much bigger than ourselves. Maybe if we can tune into that universal symphony, we can find our true place in the universe.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it as thought-provoking as we did. And until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep seeking that harmony within yourselves and in the world around you.
Please like, share and subscribe.